quite prepared for that. And so I decided to join the United States Air Force. I thought I would do 4 quick years, get my GI Bill, and I was going to roll out, people. 4 years into my assignment, I decided that, well, let me go ahead and re-enlist. I have a Honda Civic that I need to pay off, and this Air Force thing is kind of fun, actually. And so I ended up re-enlisting, and probably about the 8-year mark, I really started understanding what it meant to wear this uniform. I started to understand what my service identity was. I am married. I'm married an Army guy, so we've been married for over 20-something years. We met at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. We have 2 kiddos. I have a college kid and a 13-year-old, so life is pretty busy. I love the Air Force. It's been an honor to serve, and I'm excited to share some stuff with you all today.
Awesome. Wow. Thanks, Chief. Absolutely. So you're talking about your Air Force story, which is great because we're talking about identity, our Airmanship 200 topic. So identity, we're going to go over some of the lesson plan, and then after that you and I will ask some questions, and then those airmen in chat, please speak up in chat. I'll read your responses. The Chief and I can talk about what you guys are talking about and what you're thinking about. So identity. Discuss the importance of recognizing that your values will contribute to building your identity as an airman. So it says that we're going to talk about 60 minutes, but more than likely it's going to be anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes. And then from there, time permitting, we'll go over to maybe some financial tips and tricks for airmen for the most part. So personal values. Chief went over her personal values. Thank you very much, Chief. And what we'll do is I'm going to talk a little bit about what my personal values are too as well as we go through. So my personal values, family first, and preparedness, meaningful work, and a sense of belonging is really something that I've identified. These are categories that I've identified as what my personal values are. One of the reasons which I think it's important to kind of just make sure that we identify what those personal values are is so that we can think about our actions and align those actions with our values. So if those actions don't align, if whatever I'm thinking about, if those actions don't align with our personal values, then I can go back and I can adjust what I'm doing to make sure that I'm purposefully adhering to family, preparedness, meaningful work, and a sense of belonging. And then the cool thing about that is all those values that are present right there are really in line with Air Force core values as well. So it's kind of merged into one, which is pretty cool, and what this identity topic is supposed to be talking about. It's us as people, and then us as airmen, and how we've kind of come together and created this whole airmanship concept. So,
hey, Sergeant Traina, so I want to pull that string a little bit on you. So you just shared with us, was it 4 or 5 values?
It was 4. 4 values is what I'm trying to go for. Yep, ma'am.
Family, what else?
Family, preparedness, meaningful work, so ensuring that what I'm doing kind of gives me some intrinsic value and that I feel like I'm giving back to the community, and then a sense of belonging. And what I mean by that is sort of like that meaningful work and a sense of belonging is sort of hand in hand, so that I can kind of build that community of ensuring that I'm actually giving something to people and not just taking away.
So I love that, because honestly we share a lot of the same values. But let's take that back. So how long have you been serving in the Air Force?
Ma'am, next year will be 11 years, and I can't believe it's already there.
11 years. So you're in. We got you at least till 20, right?
Yes, ma'am. You got hook, line, and sinker. I've got.
So 11 years ago, your values coming into the United States Air Force, showing up at basic military training, may or may not have been that. There are certainly airmen who come into the Air Force and they have certain value sets, and some of them come in because they want to be part of something bigger than themselves. They want that sense of belonging, family, etc. But values aren't always values to everybody. And certainly when I look back at my values 27 years ago, I would offer that they're probably very different than what they are today. So I'm going to ask you, 11 years ago, what would you say your values were back then?
Oh, man. So
this is going to be airmanship between me and you. You know, as we facilitate these things, I think we grow, and I'm excited to grow just as much as the folks who might be listening to this today.
Absolutely. the civilian Mr. Traina prior to the military was not the what I would say responsible adult that you see today. Not even close. And in fact, my ability to join the Air Force was to get out of the situation that I was in. It was, and I don't want to say that I was running away, but really I needed to find. You said like a sense of doing something greater. I needed that. I needed that. I wasn't doing something greater in my civilian life, and I needed a sense that I was doing meaningful work. I didn't know that that's what I wanted at the time. I didn't know that that was a value of mine identified at the time. But prior to my military service, the genuine truth is, I really did not have a family that cared about me. I mean, I have extended family that cares about me and that cared about my situation, but my immediate family was not good at all. And because of that, there was some hard times, that's for sure.
So you gained your values from your worldview at the time.
Yes, ma'am. I guess so. My values have obviously evolved over time, just like I think anybody who goes through. But like in the beginning, it was really about trying to support myself and get out of the situation that I was in and try and move forward. And then as it progressed, it's weird. Like I really wanted to. I thought about it in a civilian sense, like, hey, I want to own something and create something, and I want to take care of as many people as I can. I want to pay them well. I want them to have good benefits. Like, I thought about this big dream that I had as a civilian. And weird, as I started to get rank in the military, and I started to do a few things, and I started to really help, and I'm like, wow, you know what the Air Force really does? They pay people. They take care of people really well. They got a mentorship program. We provide benefits for their families, and whoa, these things really aligned really well, and I was able to just say, you know what, the Air Force is really my path. It's really what I want to do.
So I think it's important to understand that we all have a different baseline when we come in, and we don't come in inherently as 18-year-olds, in my case, with the thought process of the values that the Air Force has. My definition of integrity as an 18-year-old was very different than the definition that we have as United States Airmen. And so I'll be honest, for not very many people know my story, but integrity to me was like not snitching on your friends. So that was integrity to me. And I know people can't believe it because they just see, Chief Master Sergeant Bass, but I was, kind of a troublemaker growing up. My dad didn't know what was going to happen to me, enough that where I graduated high school, I was actually kicked off every military installation. I was barred from access to bases. That's how bad I was. So I wouldn't tweet that out to anybody, but it just goes to show that our values coming into the military are very different. And most of us don't come in like, hey, we've got integrity, woohoo. And it takes us a while to build on that. So to all the airmen who are out there listening to this, we get it. You come in with all the values and the worldview that you have for when you were growing up, and now I'll have Sergeant Traina help us transition into, with the personal values that you have and the identity that you have, how do you grow into the airman and having the Air Force identity that we're hoping you're going to have, the identity that folks like myself now, having evolved, and Sergeant Traina have.
Absolutely, absolutely. Give me one moment, ma'am. We're gonna put on a quick slideshow, and I'm gonna transition and do some stuff with the stream real quick.
Awesome.
All right, so we are back up. I'm going back here. Hey guys, so as I was looking in the stream chat, apparently some of the stream, you guys needed to hit, we needed to hit refresh on the standby page for us to actually show up. So what I'll do is I'll make sure that that beginning portion of this stream was put up on YouTube so you guys can go back and see it. We got some awesome conversation with Chief Bass explaining her story, my story, and the Air Force identity and what we're talking about in reference to how we continue to move forward and progress through our professional development as airmen, from civilian to basic training to airman in training, and then finally our first duty location. So we are going to continue and move forward. And then guys, once again, super sorry about that technical difficulty. Just make sure that you guys refresh, and we'll make sure that we put that in chat. Refresh your stream, and then you can actually see us live and participate in the chat. So to catch you guys up, Chief Bass was kind of telling us about her history, which was awesome, that Chief Bass is where she is right now based on what she told us. Ma'am, actually, do you mind just going a little refresher real quick of what we talked about?
All right, so we talked a little bit. Actually, I was good because then nobody would know what a troublemaker I was in the past. But no, so what I shared is, you know, I love that we're talking about airmanship because airmanship's near and dear to my heart, and I can appreciate that as we join the United States Air Force, that we all come in with a different baseline of what we value. I certainly did 20-something years ago when I came in. My thoughts on integrity are not what my thoughts are on integrity today. You know, when I came in as an 18-year-old, you know, if you ask me what is integrity, integrity was not snitching on your friends. You know, that was integrity to me. And so what I shared was, you know, with how I have evolved over the years, thankfully so. But, you know, based on the values that I had, again, you know, my dad was an Army officer. I was a bit of a troublemaker growing up, came from a split household, you know, so grew up with my dad, got in enough trouble as a senior in high school that I was barred from every military installation in my state.
Oh,
that was the values kind of that I had. So I wasn't, you know, too bad of a kid. I hope that my dad doesn't think that, but enough that I got in trouble quite a bit. And so I came into the Air Force with that mindset and that worldview and the baggage, you know, so I didn't come in believing in integrity, service before self, and excellence. You know, I came in like most of the airmen who come in today, and then we start to understand what it means, and we start to learn about Air Force values, and I think that's what binds us all together as we, you know, don this uniform and become United States Airmen.
Absolutely. I can't agree more, ma'am. Like we talked about just a few minutes ago with the weird stream issues, I had a very similar kind of way. My initial values when I came in obviously weren't identified whatsoever, and really I was just trying to get out of the situation that I was in. And the Air Force, as I progressed to the Air Force, the idea of family has really changed for me, because prior to my military experience, that idea of family, while my extended family cared about me greatly, my immediate family had significant challenges. We'll just go there. And because of that, it felt weird in the beginning as people like genuinely started to care about me, not just about my military goals and my professional goals. They started to care about me personally and how I'm doing and how my family's doing and what's going on with me. And then that right there kind of built that mentorship program and that ability to help me value the Air Force much more than as if this was just another job. Prior to the military, I worked at Olive Garden. Like, nobody was making sure that I had, that I was good personally. They just made sure that I could cook some good, steak and chicken. That was about it. So it was an interesting situation back then.
Right up. Hey, so again, I think it's important as airmen. So wherever we are in our Air Force career, if I'm a first line supervisor, if I'm a chief master sergeant, if I'm a tech training wingman to other wingmen, it's important to understand that identity piece. And I think it's important to kind of meet people where they are and understand who their identity is. Because again, it's all that diverse perspective that ultimately make us better. Mm-hmm. We just have to have the willingness to, again, have the identity that we have coming in. We have to have the willingness to want to be better.
Absolutely.
And if we do, that's where the evolution and that's where this secret sauce comes in.
Absolutely, can't agree more. So as the let's go, we'll follow this lesson plan real quick. Many aspects of life, to include our personal values, beliefs, and goals, contribute to our identity as airmen. At some point, being an airman will take front seat and start to contribute to our other identities, such as being a parent, spouse, student, neighbor, airman, American, etc. This switch happens at different times for each of us. Deployments tend to have a very powerful effect on our airman identity. Yeah. So for our main point one in this Airmanship 200 professional development content, we've talked about a little bit of your story, a little bit of my story, and now let's talk about our Air Force identity. And ma'am, you brought up that your dad was an Army officer. What made you join the Air Force over joining the Army?
So, you know, as an 18-year-old, you kind of reason like an 18-year-old does. And I remember years of watching my dad get up for PT at 4:30 in the morning and heading into formation. And I thought, there is no way, like, I'm going to get up at 4:30 every morning. And if that's the Army, then that's not for me. And so that, honestly, that was my thought process. Somehow I ended up at Air Force recruiting station. And what's interesting is fast forward 20-something years later, now I get up at 4:30 in the morning and I go to unit PT, you know, or personal PT. And so, yeah.
Awesome. I mean, that's cool. Yeah, definitely. The reason why I joined the Air Force, one of the reasons is I had a specific job that I wanted. So I had a little bit of firefighting experience prior to joining the military, and then I went to the first recruiter I went to was a Marine Corps recruiter. And they laughed me out of the office. I told them I want to be a fireman, and they said, you're going to be a dumb grunt. That's literally what the recruiter said as I was in his office. And so I dipped out of there real quick and went over to the Air Force recruiter, and I told him, hey sir, I want to be a fireman. And he goes, oh, that's really difficult. And then I showed him some of my educational background, and he was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And then from there I got to move on with my Air Force career. So absolutely, man, we're going to jump into this little Air Force heritage video. Which is really valuable to go over, and then from there we'll talk about that and our perspective of Air Force identity now.
Alrighty.
We stood in lines and raised our right hands, and then all of a sudden, we weren't kids anymore. It's not that we grew up, we just knew we had to be different now. When they say repeat after me and you state your name, it sounds like a mess. A bunch of voices saying their names at the same time, all proud of who they are. By the end of the oath, you're one voice, all proud of what you share. The oath is our bond that brings all airmen together. We solemnly swore that we would support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Maybe a lot of us had never even read the Constitution, but that piece of paper we swore to defend spelled out everything America was capable of. The greatness that was yet to come. Freedoms, rights, powers, duties, responsibilities. That's what we were defending. And now, you've taken that oath. You swore to do what was required of you. What is required will be more than you thought you had. You will be given boundaries and borders, but you will also be shown horizons. Your duty is to achieve the impossible. Your orders are to conquer fears. Do things we couldn't dream of. Your orders are not to live up to some romantic idea of what we were, or to drag our memory with you like a weight. Your orders are to let us carry you to places we couldn't find. Your duty is to your country. Your duty is to be an airman. The oath is not a limitation. It's a starting gun. You have not sworn to do what so many brave men and women have done before. You've sworn to do what no one has done before. Do not repeat after us. Do better. Aim high, airmen.
Yeah. I love those pace videos.
Yeah, I do too.
All right, so one of the things that goes over is just essentially doing something greater. And then as we go through this, it says, now that you are an airman, what's your perspective of the Air Force identity now? So, ma'am, you've been in your time, you're 27 years, and now that you get to see it from the level where you're at, what's your perspective on it, on how it is now? And then I guess I would say going to dive a little bit deeper and how that transition from civilian life to airman on station, how that transition kind of works.
Sure. So, it's funny, looking at it backwards, 27 years has flown by. I remember being where you were 11 years in the Air Force and telling myself, okay, I got 9 more years and I'm good. And somehow the values, the heritage, the pride that you get from being in the United States Air Force really start to cement into who you are. When I first came in, it was just a job. It was a means to an end. It was an ability for me to get my GI Bill, maybe figure some stuff out in life and hone some of my skills. But I love the piece about deployment because I think, probably for most people, when they experience their first deployment and then all the other deployments that go on, you start to realize what it really means to for this deployment and truly the privilege that it has to be part of the 1% of the nation who decides to serve our Air Force. And so through those deployments and training that led up to the deployments, you have that sense of camaraderie and a sense of purpose that is absolutely way bigger than ourselves. So going, downrange to on a mission with a bunch of your brothers and sisters, that is a no-fail mission, is something that you don't get working for, Google, IBM, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, or anything like that. Not that those are, worthy occupations to have, but in the profession of arms, a profession where we do something very different, and it is for the security and the defense of our nation. You can't help but start to get proud. So my very first deployment, you couldn't help but get proud when you see, a 8-ship of F-16s, taking off to get ready to go downrange, and you're going downrange to meet those aircraft. You can't help but feel the pride that because of whatever you do and whatever support function you have leads to mission success across the United States Air Force. And so my pride for my service and the heritage, my pride in fellow airmen, again, regardless of their AFSCs, I've worked for and worked with amazing airmen who've been in support AFSCs, operational AFSCs. It just doesn't matter. It takes a family and a community of cross-functional career fields to be able to make our mission work. And so I've had the opportunity to work with some of the best, and that is, I think, what's helped kind of ingrain the pride and the heritage and the legacy that we live on, and has made me the proud airman that I am.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like how you talked about working with the best, and that's the idea of the mentorship program, and part of the reason why we do professional development. I mean, starting in basic training, Airmanship 100, which is the professional development program that airmen go through while they're in basic training, on top or in conjunction with standards, customs and courtesies, marching, all that good stuff. Then you go straight to your technical training where we're saying, hey, you got to be professionally developed straight from the start. So not only basic tech training, there's no breaks. First you to location, and then throughout your career, you're getting professionally developed. And that now that we are airmen.
And hey, let's interject one thing for the folks that are listening to this. So that's pretty powerful. The fact that you get Airmanship 100, I don't really like numbers because then it becomes a thing. But the fact that you're getting developed BMT and airmen, and you're going to get folks like Sergeant Traina in tech training, and then when you go into the operational Air Force, you're going to continue to get it. That is powerful, because when I came in the Air Force, man, we didn't get it. We grew up kind of in the hard knocks life where we had to figure it out. And so my airman identity, I don't think evolved. It evolved, but it took me a long time to figure it out because I didn't get the deliberate inserts and injects that you're getting today. And so, again, thanks, Sergeant Traina, for doing this for our airmen.
Absolutely. I love doing it. This is a huge opportunity, and I feel blessed to be able to be a part of this and actually help hopefully build a connection with our airmen in training so that they can feel like they're valued in the Air Force right away. And if you don't feel like you guys are valued, please get with your MTLs and your leadership, because I'm telling you right now, we do value you. We care about you, and we want to help you progress in your military career, absolutely, and in your personal life to make sure that you're a better individual as well. So thanks, Chief, for your perspective. I'm going to run into a little bit of what I was thinking about my Air Force identity and perspective, and like we've been talking about this whole time is, and I've said in previous streams, there's a time where you in the Air Force, like similar to you, ma'am, I joined because I needed a job. I didn't want to work at Olive Garden anymore, and then from there, I transitioned to where I'm in the military, and this is a job, and there's, oh man, I'm an airman in training, and I got to listen to everybody. Everyone tells me what to do. I really have little freedoms. I got all these restrictions on me, especially in technical training. And then you get to your first duty location, and I'm like, oh man, there's all this stuff that I gotta worry about and learn and figure out how to do with, and it's all directive. Everyone's just telling me what to do, and not many people are asking me what I think I should be doing. But the truth is at that point in time for me, it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me, because I really needed to learn more. I needed to kind of finish that transition from civilian to military. So civilian, Traina, working at Olive Garden, flipping steaks and chicken, didn't really translate to military Traina. And so I had to absorb all that military knowledge. And those first few ranks really they do feel like you're getting told what to do a lot. But then as you progress through your training, what's weird is as you make rank and move forward, and it happens way quicker than you think. For some of us it may not, but I'm telling you, you'll get that next rank and it's like, oh my goodness, am I really prepared for this? Yeah. The truth is you are, because otherwise you wouldn't have got the rank. So, yeah. But yeah.
Hey, that piece that you're talking about on, when you're more junior in rank, and how you don't feel like you can quite provide the input, because you're kind of being direct, it's being directive on, how and what you will do. I will tell you, so I used to think about it like that too, but now instead, what I really think is we're just instilling discipline and some of that character building where we otherwise wouldn't have it. And we're creating that foundation in basic training and tech training, and also into the operational Air Force, where we are creating that foundation that not everybody has growing up in, outside of the military. I think I probably had a little bit of it having an Army father, but that foundation of values is important. And again, it may not feel great. So I have kiddos. Some of you guys might have kiddos. It doesn't feel great when you're getting it kind of directed down on you. But fast forward 2 years from now or 5 years from now, you will be grateful for that strong foundation of values of what we believe, what we call the Air Force identity. Every airman will be better for it. That's whether you're wearing this uniform or out. So if an airman does 4 years or 6 years or 8 years or 20 years, that foundation of discipline and values that we insert and character building that we insert into you will make you a better person outside of the military.
Absolutely. Another thing I kind of like about the foundation of values is that the military gathers people from all over the globe. I've had international members that have joined the Air Force. So, we got people all over the United States that join the Air Force. And look at this common ground we have now. We all have U.S. Air Force on our chest. We got to earn it every day. And it's so awesome that we can all relate to each other in some way. We all have this common background that we can talk about and go through. And we know that we've kind of been through these levels and these tiers of service and learning that we can now kind of move and help us progress through our military careers. So I love that, ma'am. Thank you so much. That's awesome. So as we go through, so this is the next one where it says your personal values fit into airman identity. So on a scale, it's going to ask us on a scale of 1 to 10, but we're going to talk about it, I think, a little bit more. Whereas as you transition through your personal identity and then your airman identity, and how those, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, and your identity doesn't really correlate, and then 10 being you're in. How do you feel about that right now, man, being 27 years in?
So I'm probably a 9 out of a 10. So, and I only say that because I'm always of the mindset that there's always room to grow. But I definitely think that I'm probably a 9 because my airman identity is almost lockstep, identical to my personal values and who I am at home, so it's very much in lockstep. What would I be on a scale of 1 to 10 when I first joined? Probably a 1. Honestly, I came in with different values. I came in with the mindset of what's in it for me. I just want to get my GI Bill. I'm just going to do the best. I'm going to try to stay out of trouble. I don't want the MTL yelling at me, and I'm just going to, I'm in it for me. So that's kind of where my value system lined up. Did I have some sense of excellence? Yes, absolutely. But again, to the degree of which I had the values that I did, I was definitely a 1 where now I'm a 9. So I think that's a win.
Absolutely. I think that I'm still trying to, I'm all in. I'm right there with you. I don't know if I'm up there at a 9 yet, probably maybe a 7 or an 8, I think.
Okay.
But I think that until recently, I didn't realize the value in 100% identifying, like writing down and identifying your values so that you could ensure that your actions line up with those things. Because it's easy to think about kind of like what you want to be like and how you want to be. I think it's easy to think about that. But when you try to hold yourself accountable and then potentially hold each other accountable, like as we hold people accountable for our Air Force core values, as I hold people accountable for military standards, customs, and courtesies as an MTL, that can sometimes be uncomfortable, that conflict, going up to somebody and saying, hey, look, I need you to do that. You need to wear your uniform correctly. I need to know, especially in this early time of your career, that you can adhere to standards, customs, and courtesies and policies, because later on, you're going to be in a dangerous situation. And if you don't follow the rules, then you could hurt yourself or somebody else.
Agree.
So that's one of the reasons why we're so sticklers on all these things that some people maybe don't necessarily care so much about wearing your hat indoors or having your hands in your pockets. Well, come on, guys, we need you to be able to adapt and change and overcome and adhere to these things that maybe you're not 100% on, because someday you're going to be in those positions where you're making those rules that other people may not be 100% on, and you need them to follow them because you have the information that says they should. So,
Great.
With this right now, like my Air Force identity and me being an airman is continually evolving, but the nice thing is it's evolving in the Air Force path. I really don't see myself ever being like losing that airman identity, and I really do feel like there's a thing I said before in a previous stream where we're talking about airmanship and making sure that we don't regret getting that Air Force tattoo in tech school, and I think that's part of this right here. Like, you want to make sure that you have that airman tattoo, you got that, you're proud of being an airman, and you're proud of it for the rest of your life. And I'm definitely gonna feel that way, and I want other airmen to feel that way too, knowing that we're gonna help professionally develop them and have people like you, Chief Bass, coming on our stream or coming talking to the airmen and telling your story and making sure that they understand, they can relate to how you were when you came in.
Yeah, and again, I can't emphasize enough that we definitely have to be able to relate and be transparent and share with airmen who we were when we first came in, which is why I asked you earlier, hey, tell me about it, because Sergeant Traina came on hard. Hey, here's my values, family, belonging, etc. But I want to know the Sergeant Traina 11 years ago, because a lot of our airmen listening to us today, they're like, man, this is, a little bit sappy and I can't get down with these values, all in. But here's what I promise you. You will, we all get there at some point. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is the values that the Air Force fundamentally believes in, which is our Air Force identity, are very different from the values that every company has. We're different in that we ask more of you because we are a profession of arms. But let me tell you something, if you do work for other corporations or companies outside the United States military, they still value the same things we do: integrity, mm-hmm. service, excellence, and then if you dig down deeper into those other values, courage, competence, commitment, any organization values people who value that. So we're just showing you a way to have that as a foundation more than another company. So another company, if you join, and you become part of, Google or whatever field that you want to be in, they're probably not going to have airmanship training where they teach you these values.
Mm-hmm.
In the United States military, we know that your identity as an airman is so important because it's going to create that foundation that's going to grow you to be the best airman that we need you to be, to grow you to be the best leader that we need you to be. There's not too many organizations outside of the United States military that are going to deliberately have training environments like this where we want you to be of good character.
Absolutely.
I love it.
And this early on in your career, like right away, like you're still airmen in training are still going through that vetting process too. They're still we want to make sure that you can adhere, you can change from that civilian you to this military you. And if you can't, I mean, that's a hard truth. And right now we're trying to give you that professional development that helps you get there. So as we circle back around airmanship, we're going to talk about the definition of airmanship. An airman's relentless mindset bound by our Air Force core values, forged through a culture of pride and professionalism, inspired by our innovative heritage, and exemplified through actions in defense of our nation. Awesome. That is our airmanship. That's us as airmen trying to make sure that we adhere to the mission requirements that are currently going on in our nation right now, everything that we got going on, and having this identity that we are to help overcome those challenges that we're dealing with. One of which is being this COVID-19 pandemic, and the reason why we're having this live stream is so that we can continue to give you guys professional development in an environment where we can't necessarily group together. So, Chief Bass, thank you so much. Thanks for talking about airmanship and identity. And now that we've kind of hit this topic, do you have any last words on the identity topic?
A couple things. So you brought up the definition of airmanship, which is the relentless mindset bound by our values. That's important. So, and you spoke about COVID and this pandemic that we're in. What I remind our airmen that is all eyes are on us right now. So the whole world is experiencing this pandemic to varying degrees, but all eyes are on us. And so being in the profession of arms, being in the United States Air Force, it is, we are different. We have to set ourselves apart. We have a different mindset because of the values that we have. And so it's important to remind ourselves of that. Will we be scared at times? Sure. Will we be doubtful of the actions that my organization is asking me to go when everybody else is sitting at home, trying to, physically distance and separate themselves, but yet I have a chain of command who's telling me we're in the profession of arms. We're the, elite corps that only 1% of Americans all serve in. And we have to be bound. We have to have the right mindset, and that right mindset is only going to come to us based on the things that we put into our mind. And so airmanship is certainly one of those, growing from each other, and having these kinds of discussions. And it doesn't have to be, in any set format. We could just huddle together as airmen and talk about what keeps us ticking, and what makes us, what drives us, and what makes us get up every morning. Those are the discussion topics that I think every airman should have, which helps give us the right mindset. And mindset is important, especially during a time like this. And then the last thing that I'll put before we get off topic and go to whatever you want to do is I want to talk a little bit about value, because you were saying, hey, every airman has value.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. I love talking to airmen coming right out of basic training or in basic training and tech training. And then I love, continuing wherever you are in your career to remind you the value that you bring to the United States Air Force. So today in 2020, I mean, we're one of the, we are probably the smallest we've ever been in terms of number of airmen that are currently serving. When I came in the early 90s, don't say anything about how long ago that was. But when I did, it wasn't Cold War. I'm just saying.
You mean back when Friends was popular, the TV show? Yeah.
When I came in the early 90s, we had close to 600,000 airmen serving in the military. Fast forward to today, you know, we have about 321,000 serving. So, you know, almost half the amount of airmen. When I came in back then, we had, you know, we were very busy in the Middle East, and that was our threat. And fast forward to today, we're the smallest we've ever been, yet we have a global threat. We have near-peer competitors. The landscape today is different. So if we have about half the airmen today serving, then every airman counts. Every single one of them. I don't care if you're in basic training or tech training. If you raise your hand and you want to serve in the United States Air Force, then you count, you matter. And so why are we so serious about, you know, pouring airmanship into you, creating a disciplined airman so that you are good in whatever functional career field we bring you in? Why does your character matter? Because you count. If we're the smallest we've ever been, today, we don't have any JV team anymore. There, you know, we are all on the varsity team, and we have to deliver. Whether you're serving with us just for 4 years or 6 years, we need you to be on the varsity team. We need you to deliver, and we want you at that same time to grow into the airman that you need to be. And then at 4 years, when it's time for you to re-enlist or separate, if your choice is separation, that's okay. You know, like I'm personally okay with that, because what I hope is that we've grown a disciplined person who's going to go on to the outside world and continue to serve in their communities and just be better. But if you continue to serve in the Air Force, then we expect you to continue that growth process and the continuum of learning so that you can be the leader that we need in the Air Force that is small and agile with threats that are everywhere.
Awesome.
So we value you, you matter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Chief. That's, I mean, great. Yes, every airman matters. You matter. Airmen in training out there in internet land, thank you for tuning in, all that good stuff. And now that we've talked about Airmanship 200 and identity, and we've been professionally developed, we're going to go into some financial tips for airmen in training. So, ma'am, if you remember back when you were in technical training, I definitely remember when I was in technical training. What do you think are some financial tips that we should probably help our airmen with, just to let them know little tips and tricks so that they can make sure they're responsible enough to hold on to some of that cash?
Absolutely. So, you know, if you are not being deliberate about the money that you have, and more importantly, the money that you're saving, then you're probably not doing right by your money. And so I would offer that, you know, my dad told me a long time ago, you know, every time you get paid, so, you know, every 2 weeks or every month, you've got to pay yourself first. And so I learned that. So as a young airman basic, I would save at the time $50. So I had a $50 allotment that would go out and it would go somewhere else. And he also taught me that every time you get a pay raise, you know, make sure that you are upping your allotment. So it would go from $50 to, you know, then I became, you know, an E2, and then I'd save an extra $25. And so, you know, it got up to the point where, you know, as, you know, I can't remember, I might have been a senior airman, I was saving $200 every paycheck, and then so forth. You know, when you start getting in the habit of paying yourself first, all of a sudden you're going to wake up, and at the 4-year mark, when you might want to, you know, you have to make the decision on whether you're going to get out or stay in and continue serving, you're going to have a good chunk of change. But if you never pay yourself first, and if you haphazardly just, you know, get your paycheck and then you go buy those new shoes that are $200, and then you're going out to eat, and oh, by the way, you know, I have a 19-year-old who doesn't always pay, you know, a whole lot of attention to her paychecks. It can go by really quick. So most important thing, pay yourself first. Put some money away, put it in an account. A little is always better than nothing.
Absolutely. That's something that I wish I kind of took advantage of earlier on. I think I'm doing pretty good now. I've followed some of the advices of senior chiefs such as yourself, who've given me some pay yourself first advice, and I've invested in the TSP and all that good stuff, and have a good savings account for emergency funds and all that. I got Anthony who wanted me to ask a question to you, ma'am, which is, what is the biggest piece of career advice you can give to a brand new airman right now?
Ooh, that's good. Anthony, there's a whole lot of advice. Let me think. never burn a bridge. So again, I told you guys the Air Force is pretty small, so I learned never to burn a bridge, and what that means is never burn a relationship. You never know when, you know, that Staff Sergeant Traina is going to end up being Master Sergeant Traina, and then somehow your paths cross again, and you thought you could have said whatever you wanted to say in tech training, and it was over. No, you know, so you never burn that bridge. Always keep that relationship. And then what I would also say, Anthony, is just stay hungry. You know, stay hungry and always want to be your best. You know, always volunteer for things that your NCOs are pushing your way. Do your personal best and bring your teammates along with you. So I wished I would have got that advice as a young airman, because I think when I was busy as a young airman trying to be my best, I probably wasn't very mindful of my teammates to my right and left, because it was kind of like the Hunger Games, even when I came in, and you really wanted to stand out and you really want to be like the team captain. I would tell you that, you know, the team is only as strong as their weakest link. So make sure that you're bringing your folks with you. And the cool thing about being in special warfare is you guys already have that team perspective in special warfare. You guys probably know how to live the team core values better than anybody else.
Oh yeah, that team concept is highly valued in special warfare, and that's pretty much the ride or die. That's the thing that you got to adhere to the best of your ability, is ensuring that you take care of your team, your wingman your whole team, and your wingman next to you, for sure. Yeah.
I don't know if you know, Sergeant Traina, but you know, I think the reason why I am who I am, I spent the first part of my career in special ops. So as a young senior airman, I got picked up to work at the 24 Special Tactics Squadron, and that team concept and pushing people to be their personal best is really, as a young airman, what shaped me and also helped grow my Air Force identity.
Absolutely. I love these, like transitioning from, I guess I'd say, regular Air Force to being an MTL with the special warfare community has absolutely been eye-opening for me and helped push me further than I thought I could go. I got 2 questions from people in chat. I got Mike, who's saying, is there a percentage of your paycheck you suggest putting away? And then Airman Smith, who goes with, what are some of the most common financial issues that you see happen in new airmen? So, ma'am, what do you think about a percentage of your paycheck? If you said 20, 50, so on and so forth, and then upping it every time, would you recommend a percentage?
So there's going to be financial advisors who just cringe because they're like, she's not an expert. So I'm not a financial expert. I would offer to save whatever you can. So every situation's different. You know, some of our airmen come in and they have families. So the airmen who come in and they have families and they have other obligations that they can't necessarily save 20%. But if I were, you know, a single airman, and if 20% of my paycheck is something realistic that I could save, I would put 20% of it away, you know, and pay myself. I would probably put another percentage away where, you know, maybe I'm investing in something else. And then I would, you know, I'd have 20% of play money too. You know, I mean, you've got to be able to have fun, but I would make sure that I balance out my play money and how much I'm paying myself. So you know, if you can afford 20%, do it. Again, TSP is an amazing thing, and I would absolutely put my money in TSP.
Yes, ma'am. And then Airman Smith's question is, I'll try and take this one because I'm dealing with airmen, or I was dealing with airmen on a daily basis, just talking to them and dealing with some of the stuff that they got on. So for your financial issues, or some of the most common financial issues that I see happen is, hey guys, make sure that you've looked at your paychecks. For those guys who are just coming in, as you transition through your from civilian life to airman in training and technical training, you guys need to make sure that your pay is correct. So go ahead and go log into MyPay, make sure that you're getting paid correctly. And if you're not, here's your first resource, guys. Go to your MTL. Go to your MTL. If you feel comfortable, bring a copy of that LES that you have. You can go over to MyPay or Google MyPay, or go into the Air Force portal and go to MyPay so that you can look at your LES. Sometimes it takes about 6 months for your profile to be built in MyPay. So first thing you can do is pull that up and validate all the information on it, and you can utilize your MTLs to help you do that. So that's what I would say is the most common financial issue, is you guys need to make sure that you're getting the benefits. And the Air Force wants you to, your leaders want you to get paid. We want that to happen. So.
And be in the habit of doing that frequently. So way back in the day, when I came in, you had to print your LES. Like that was a that was an airman duty that you did. Why? And I couldn't appreciate it then, because they want you to make sure that you're tracking your entitlements and that they are accurate. So fast forward, here I am, a chief master sergeant working at the Pentagon, and I don't pay a whole lot of attention to my pay. I know that sounds a little crazy, but after so much time has passed and you get what you get, and I'm not living paycheck to paycheck anymore like I did when I was a young airman. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to my LES. So fast forward, I'm at the Pentagon for a year, and I was still getting a entitlement that I shouldn't have been getting, because at the Pentagon I was no longer a command chief. Guess what? I had to pay all that money back, and it gets painful. So make sure that you are looking at yours.
Yep. Ma'am, it is 10:57 right now. I think we can get our final words on, and we'll end up ending the stream. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on, Chief Bass. You are amazing. Thanks for taking an hour out of your busy schedule to be with us and give us some professional development.
Hey, so thanks, Sergeant Traina. Again, this is the least I could do. So there's folks on the front line, like your tech training instructors, the cadre, folks like Sergeant Traina, your other MTLs, your MTIs, who are out there growing and building the airmen that we need for the Air Force that we need. And so the least I can do is dedicate some time to just be able to provide maybe, some lessons learned from the experiences that I've had. What I would share with you guys is just enjoy the journey. So the Air Force is going to be fun. Like any journey, you're going to have ups and downs. My hope is that your ups are always way greater than your downs. The Air Force has given me in 27 years way more than I can ever pay back. I've had the blessings to be able to go to 32 different countries, serve with thousands of amazing airmen. I've served with some not so amazing airmen too, just like you guys are, but you learn from those folks just as much as you will from the great ones, and it will help shape the identity of who you're going to be. And so thank you for serving in our Air Force. Thanks for being part of the 1%, and thanks again, Sergeant Traina, for letting me jump on.
Ma'am, thank you so much. Awesome. All right, guys, Airmanship 200, that concludes our professional development session today. We're going to have another one next week at 09 Central Daylight Time, and we'll continue to get professionally developed. Thanks again, ma'am.
Awesome. Take care.